in this lesson, we'll finish up our model by adding the trigger. So I want to make the trigger kind of a little interesting here. So let's add the place for the trigger and the place where we would expect it, kind of right in here on the handle. And let's go ahead and just do an extrude. Now, if this is still off from our last lesson, you need to make sure to turn Keep Faces Together back on. That's an option that is really useful. You just need to remember that it's either on or off depending on what you're doing. In this case, we don't want to treat each polygon separately. We want to actually treat this as a group again, and so we want to make sure to turn this Keep Faces Together back on. So we'll go ahead and add an offset, just a little bit of an offset. Let's hit G to repeat that extrude, and then we'll push it up and in, repeat it again, and push it up again. So create a little opening there. Now let's create our trigger. So let's create a polygon primitive cube and bring it kind of into the right spot here. Let's kind of move it up, and let's go ahead and take the width down so it sort of fits in that gap. Let's take the depth down as well. So something like that. We can kind of move it into a better position. Take it down like that. Let's go ahead and take the height also down a little bit. Let's start to give ourselves a few divisions. So subdivisions along the height. Let's maybe add something like maybe 6 or so. And let's actually add a few more. So let's add 8. So I want to add a little bit of kind of ribbed detail to this. On the depth, let's add a few divisions because we do want to be able to deform this a bit. We need to have the geometry or the resolution there to be able to do it. Let's go ahead and take this entire loop on the outside of this and let's extrude it. So we'll just add a little bit of thickness, not much, maybe 0.2. Okay, now I'm going to take these polygons on opposite sides and let's just do a bridge. Now you'll see that it's all kind of messed up there. One of the things that bridge has to do is figure out which edges are supposed to be connected to which other edges. Sometimes it gets a little confused, so we can go to bridge offset and we can change which edges are actually connected, and as we just middle mouse drag this corrects it and makes it look exactly like we want it to. Let's do the same thing up here. We'll select these 4 polygons on either side. We'll do a bridge, and then we'll change the offset until it looks correct. In this case, it looks like our bridge offset's 5 there. All right, so we got a couple of those in. Let's go ahead and select the loops on the outside there, and let's extrude those and give them a little bit of thickness. All right, now I want to tighten things up. When I smooth it, it kind of looks like this, which is kind of cool, but I want it to be a little bit harder surfaced or harder edged. So I'll use the Insert Edge Loop tool to add some edge loops on the interior of these. And same thing here. And then let's also kind of tighten up the transition where that comes out. And we'll do the same thing here. And smooth it and kind of see what it looks like there. Now let's say I want to deform this a little bit. The first thing I can do is get rid of some of the extra geometry that we don't need. So I can get rid of that. Then we can use another deformer. We can go ahead and grab our animation, create deformers, and let's create a lattice. All right. Now if we create it with the default settings, there's not really a lot of resolution here. There's only one division, and so we can't really deform it the way that we want. And so let's go back and let's set this to 3, and we'll just do 3 by 3 by 3. Okay, now right click, go to lattice point, and this will allow me to use these lattice points to deform the geometry rather than the polygons themselves. So I can come in and start to deform this a little bit, make kind of a little bit more of a trigger shape. I'll kind of bring this down a little. If we want to kind of pull this back a bit, we can do that. and just create a little bit more of an interesting shape for a trigger. Kind of move this out a little bit. Maybe pull them both up a bit. And then when we're ready to get rid of that, we can go ahead and delete our history. I think I want to thicken that bottom part up a little bit, so I'm just going to grab those bottom points and just move them down slightly. So we still get the deformed shape, we just get a little bit more thickness at the bottom. Alright, so that gives us our trigger shape. We can clean it up a little bit if we want to. You can see there's a little bit of maybe a little bit of a kink there, so I can come in and just tweak these points just a little to create more of a smooth line there, and maybe kind of pull it up and in a little bit more. Alright, so that gives us our trigger and kind of finishes up the modeling. Now in the next lesson, let's take a look at kind of cleaning up our scene, organizing things, and then we can set up the pivot for our handle to be able to rotate appropriately and get everything for this asset ready to go. So let's go ahead and do that in the next lesson.